This is the first in a series of videos about how to undertake a research assessment. It might be a research essay, or it might be a creative piece or a research report. But basically I'm going to step you through the various aspects of doing some research. So the first thing to do is actually to understand the question that's being asked. You can see here I have a question or an instruction on what I'm supposed to do for this research task. The first thing I do always for all questions that I'm being asked is I look for the verbs. So we start at the very beginning, examine. That is a verb. It's a doing word. It's telling me to do something. Okay, the impact of the Vietnam War on Australian culture using another verb. Okay, so I highlight that one. Okay, using examples. So here in this assignment, I have to examine and I have to use. They're the two things that I have to do. Sometimes it might be choose and explore or something like that. So, you've got to look for what the verbs are. Then you actually have to look for, well, how am I limited? What's the limitations on this? Okay, one is the Vietnam War. Okay, so I can't do the Korean War or World War II or the Iraqi wars or any of those. I have to do the Vietnam War. All right, another one is Australian culture. Okay, so there I've got another one. It's a limiter. So I can't look at the Vietnam War and America or Vietnam War and Russia or anything like that. It's got to be on Australian culture. So that's my limitations. But then what am I actually, examining, right? Well, here I am. I am examining the impact. Okay, and over here I have to use some examples. So I'm looking at the impact and examples by using examples of the Vietnam War on Australian culture, and I'm examining it. Okay, this is really important because as you can see here, I've got some other verbs. Examine means take a look at. Okay, so I'm going to list some of the impacts of the Vietnam War on Australian culture, giving examples. So I might say X, I might say Y, but they're actually, then I'm going to say, and this is an example of blah, 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 right? So in the assignment somewhere, I will use the term, here's an example. Here's another example. Impact, I'm going to use the term impact a lot, all right? The essay question or the assignment question will actually tell you what to use in the assignment itself. So repeat the language. I have examined this after examination. Okay, use that sort of language back in your writing. To explain something means if I was going to explain the impacts, it means I have to say why those impacts happened. Okay, so I need to go into the in-depths about, the actual outcomes of those impacts, the flow-on effects of those impacts, because I'm explaining them. All right, if I'm discussing, well, that means I've got two sides of an argument, right? It's a to and a fro. So are the impacts good? Are the impacts bad? All right, so the verbs, the changing of the verbs is really, really important. Then you've got compare and contrast. Compare and contrast is often together. Compare means what's the same, contrast means what's different. So if we were looking at, if we were comparing the impact of the Vietnam War and the Korean War on Australian culture, then we're looking for the similarities. What was the same between the Vietnam War and the Korean War on Australian culture? If we're contrasting, we're looking for the differences. What was different between the Vietnam War and the Korean War on Australian culture? Anyway, it's really important you understand what is actually being asked of you in the production of your research. Please do this for all questions you ever get for any research task ever. Find out what is actually being asked of you.